guess who the favorites were?
KT roster.
And you're all mine, I just want everyone to know. Yeah, you're so sweet and you want me, I just want everyone to know.
I'll tell the world, yeah. I'll tell the world.
I just want everyone to know.
I'll tell the world, yeah. I'll tell the world.
I just want everyone to know. You taste so sweet, yeah, sweeter than Coca-Cola. Your body gets me drunk like rum. I don't play the beat if you dance over closer.
Welcome back, guys. We are here live at Lone Park for SKT versus GenG, our second matchup of the night. It's me, Valdez, with Papa Smithy. We got through a fiery one, 2-0 by Kingzone over Hanwha Life earlier today, but now SKT, the favorites, going up against GenG. But the last time they went up against them, at least GenG were able to take a game. Can they do it tonight, Papa? Can they upset SKT?
So a lot has happened since that time. In fact, a name change has been enacted, of course. As of summer season, SK Telecom T1 will be known as just the T1 side of that particular coin, so we're going to have to be very aware of that going forward. There's still SKT T1 for this season, and of course T1 was the name, the kind of clan tag of the esports org of SK Telecom, the massive cell phone provider here in South Korea. The Telecom War will still live on, but the names will be a bit different. No Tyler 1 references from us tonight, but...
Well, maybe a couple. Depends on how many people play
realistically,
Draven.
probably, right.
And that's about it. That's all we got, you know. That's all I know about it.
But this was a 3-game series last time, which was a surprise, given that GenG was right down there with fellow world strugglers, FLICKR Freaks and KT Rolster in the first round robin. GenG, they've swung the axe on Fly. He was not cited last time, and Roach will be starting again today. So GenG trying to find a way to find a match victory. Otherwise, with Kingzone setting the line so far with, 7 series to play at 7 best-of-3 victories already, we're running out of time for GenG, FLICKR, and KT to be anything other than an afterthought in the spring season of the LCK.
You don't want to be caught in the race for relegation, and right now it's GenG, FLICKR, and KT trying to avoid joining Jin Air down there at the bottom. And as you mentioned before, it gets close, right? You lose 9 series, then the best you can do from there is win the rest and go 9-9. And even then, it's hard to make playoffs, especially because it is so competitive towards the middle and top of the bracket here. So it really is do or die for teams like GenG, FLICKR, and KT. They want to win all the series left available, but lots of strong teams in their way, including SKT tonight. SKT recently going down to Dalma the last time they did face off. Really close series, but still looking pretty strong and still up towards the top side of LCK.
We get to look over those histories now that everyone's played at least 10 best-of-3s. SKT looked like they were stabilized. I think the fans are starting to believe after the Griffin loss. They're like, okay, Griffin is a bridge too far, but Hanwha Life, Kingzone, GenG, KT all dispatched. Remember the GenG series was 3 games. The KT series was a pretty unconvincing 2-0, especially game number 1. KT could have taken that one, and then they lose to T1 Gaming. And I think everyone has kind of a different water cooler reason, the drafts, the play. Who we blaming today is Amada, who had a bit of a struggling series against T1 Gaming. Regardless of all of that, we know what is on the roster here. We know they come in big favorites. SKT are now at the point where they want to be up there with the best, and thus, anything less than a 2-0 victory deserves to be discussed by their fan base.
Yeah, a couple of points here for the match. Of course, what we mentioned there up at the top, but who's going to go in the mid lane up against FLICKR this time around? It says their outstanding tactic brought them a victory. I mean, it's putting Roach in the mid lane up against GenG.
That's pretty outstanding.
An outstanding tactic. I'm not convinced, but will he go up against FLICKR here tonight is another big question. And of course, Ezreal, we already saw in the last series what Def can do on that champion. Well, Teddy is another one of those big ones. And apparently big on an objective here. SKT Rift Heralds are first. They have 17 compared to 10 on the other side, 6 by GenG.
SKT have played 25 games, so 17 out of 25. We're talking over a 60% control rate on Rift Herald. For a winning team, you would expect them to have a decent score, but 17 is huge, and that's a cool stat for them to dive in. So it seems like the final stat we give between the teams, they're changing each time. Cool to see this one. GenG, jungle control is needed when you're going to pick up a Rift Herald, or at least trading sides of the map. That have proven very difficult so far for GenG to do. Watching some replays here, do notice we're going to see Urgot in these replays, and we're not going to see him in the series as far as we can tell.
Take a look here at Mana baiting it and Teddy going 1v2 as Beryl just does not respect the man. The myth, the legend that Teddy is on that Ezreal. Of course, we did also see Canyon on that Riven jungle, but the snipes here, the chase huge on 9.4. Will Khan, who's known obviously for his legendary chase, return to that big pick.
SKT starts on the blue side. Surely it's a mistake for GenG not to ban Jace first round. It seems like a wanton choice that would have almost no real reason to be rolled out, especially because CuVee's champion pool, effective champion pool, has been pretty limited. So I would be very surprised to see that, Valdez, that's for sure. Zooming in on the side of GenG, they're coming off a victory, which, you know, they haven't had many to show for this season, so they'll be feeling good about that. It was against GenG, so again, we have to really inspect nameplates on this, but what we can say is that Roach started in mid lane, he's played 2 games, he's got 2 victories, so 100% win rate so far. But how many champions could he be trained up on? As I'm sure FLICKR fans out there have seen FLICKR versus Roach in solo queue, it didn't look competitive, and it's understandable that Roach must be searching for role swap champions to just find a negating role in the mid lane. He just wants to shut down FLICKR or hold him back rather than really look for a solo kill.
Take a look at the key player comparison here. Clid is unbelievably clean in the jungle for the side of SKT up against Peanut, that has had a pretty not so good year so far here in 2019 on GenG. See the stat there for first blood kills, and there is 8 for the side of Clid. I'm not sure what the 7 and 1 means. 100%.
7 wins with they get first blood on
that makes
Clid.
sense.
And Clid was the one, I would say, next to Mata, who was unable to get a lead in the series against T1 Gaming. I think T1 Gaming had a lot of interesting ideas, the Riven jungle, other crazy stuff. If Clid gets going, I think SKT win many, many more games than they lose.
Yeah, I would have to imagine so. And on 9.4, I've been really enjoying this. I feel like there are so many contested picks alongside players that are fantastic at certain other picks that are also high tier. So it's hard to ban out everything. We get to see a lot of exciting action-packed games, as we saw here in the first match of the night, Kingzone versus Hamalife, even though that was a 2-0. Will this go the distance once again, is another question to ask, or will FLICKR and the SKT boys give us more of a cleaner victory, or will GenG actually come in with the upset?
These are the questions that are up there. Be a big upset for Roach, roll swap to the mid lane, take even a single game off SKT. That's what they were able to do in the first round robin. How are they going to square up here? And to me, the champion pools for GenG are the most interesting. 9.4 rolls out, first sighting of GenG on this patch. They're going to hope they can throw out 9.1 to 9.3 and mount a late comeback. And will that be enough for playoffs? already you're thinking no, but will it be enough to find some confidence in a squad that would have been the second most confident team based on their offseason? They were runners-up of the Casper Cup, and that is feeling a long time ago as of today.
I was definitely rating them a little bit higher after Casper Cup, but as you mentioned, it's a different time now. We'll have the AR bounce down from the sky. As you guys will know, the lineups that we do have here, of course, Con, Clid, FLICKR, Teddy, Mata haven't really changed much in this lineup so far.
Nothing. Kind of
honestly,
insane.
I wouldn't change anything, even through the problems.
I don't know if I agree with you there, Valdez. I think it's insane that Crazy and specifically on the bench, Haru for the jungle. Yes, Clid has been great, but the fact that they have pretty interesting tools in 4 roles here and have done nothing, not even a single game in a best of 3, to me is a surprise compared to GenG, who, you know, they stuck with the World Championship roster, didn't work, 2018 wasn't their year, then they swung the axes, and yes, that also is a work in progress, but they're already showing some new stuff, trying things out in 2019, at least right now. They seem to be at least looking for a way forward.
It's interesting here in 2019 that we can have mid laners playing top laners going mid. That seems to be the biggest kind of swapperinos that we've had so far, and Roach looked comfortable against Jin, but you go from Grace to FLICKR. I mean, this is one of the biggest jumps that you can have. Say what you want about FLICKR, still one of the best we have here in Korea.
Definitely.
We'll have to see how Roach handles that matchup, and if FLICKR's going to show him the respect. It says they came to watch SKT from New York, so I have some brothers and sisters here from my hometown. Feels good.
Korean casters gasp at the public display of affection. I know, insane. But that's the sort of crowd that FLICKR brings, that the SKT brand brings. SKT T1 are that worldwide brand. And this matchup on paper, remember, 2017 World Final rematch, 2016 World Final rematch. Recently, those have not been the stakes among SK Telecom T1 and GenG, but it's a hype rivalry. Can today match the hype that history shows between these two famous organizations?
Would hope to see that. I mean, on paper, some of these matchups seem pretty epic, but we'll have to wait and see if GenG can step up to the plate this time around and put on a better showing. As I mentioned before, even one win gets you a little bit, one big step away from that relegation spot. So it's really what it comes down to for these teams, and they could really turn it into some kind of win streak. That would be amazing, as Khan having a little bit of gum preparing before the game. And I'd like to see his Jace. That's the big one for me.
We're hearing a couple of audio issues on the SKT side, so we're going to have a bit of time before we get into picks and bans, and it's going to be an interesting one. We had the first series tonight where a lot of underlines, a lot of asterisks, a lot of conditionals about what Hanwha Life and Kingzone would be playing. SKT are losing one of their staples. Remember, at the Casper Cup, it was Urgot, Lissandra every game. Now the Urgot is basically gone. You wonder how that will affect. They have played 11 games of Urgot between FLICKR and Khan. No longer will that be up there. First pick status, I think Jace is the very obvious one, but there's been a lot of Clid Rek'Sai and solo queue. Finally had our first LCK Rek'Sai. It was a loss. Our first series of the night, so still learning about patch 9.4. Like you say, I think we're all pretty hyped about this patch. It's brought a lot of stuff back, a lot of new things, a lot of old things. Feels like right now the game is in a really good spot. And that's without some of the LS favorites like the Karthus and other things rolling in.
Yeah. Whoa.
That was a zoom out.
Getting the zoom out there. Seeing a little bit more of the studio. As, said something about FLICKR 6 years anniversary. Would assume that's since debut.
Yeah, debuted in
his anniversary for
spring 2013. It was 16 years, I think 8-9 months at the time. So now, obviously, just over the age of 22. Back before you had to be 17 in Korea to
back in the old days.
Play professional games. Around other titles here, there's a lot of Korean pro gamers younger than 17. Of course, Flash, famous for winning his first tournament. It was at 15, I think, at the time. Might have been younger. So definitely a historical stat. We're living in the present. We're living in 2019, where SKT might be back. SKT does seem like a true contender for spring season. GenG, not so much, based on their first series.
It's a lot of these signs that say congrats to 6 years for FLICKR, and then it says, oh, and also peanut fighting. So kind of playing both sides of the fence right now, but of course, Peanut being part of SKT and a big fan favorite here in Korea, it's hard not to cheer for both of them.
And a lot of those fans would have started years ago when maybe FLICKR and Peanut were teammates, maybe in other parts. Remember, we've had a lot of team swaps. Peanut has only ever been on a roster for a single year. He's never actually stayed on a roster for more than a year. There's a lot of popular faces around the Rift today. A season where legacies have never meant less, and yet you see FLICKR, you see Peanut, and you can't help but remember some of the magical plays we've seen from both these famous players. They may be the two biggest brands in Korea for League of Legends.
Yeah, and they're going head-to-head here once again. As it says, today is the day for Taemin's carry. That would be Clid, also God Taemin, which is just God Clid, but his real name, as getting the word that it seems like the audio issues are done, guys. So we're going to head into pick ban here for game number 1 right away. SKT going to start off on the blue side. I can't wait to see what the pick and ban holds for this second series.
Well, it's not going to hold a Silas, and of course you were off air telling me about how much you just love Silas. Really big fan of it, is Brendan Valdez.
Sure, yeah.
He will be banned away. The Zoe taken away by GenG. So Roach in solo queue saw him playing LeBlanc. Wasn't too convincing against FLICKR Zed. And Zed is, of course, a champion that could be seen, but has not been spotted so far in competitive play in Korea on patch 9.4. Top lane meta is the one that seems to be the most open book in that with Urgot gone, and Jace was already winning that matchup. Jace is now super powered when it comes to a first pick. It's pretty much uncontestable in the 1v1. And teams so far haven't had too many macro problems in closing games with the top lane Jace, so goodbye to Jace, says GenG. Smart choice. CuVee himself, you think the top lane mages will be back, right? Rise, Kennen, that's what we're thinking or hypothesizing for his champion pool, because so far CuVee's only won on Urgot and Kennen all season. So hasn't been able to find too much. Surprising blue side ban against Ruler on this Kalista. Not a traditional pick for Ruler, but he is 1-0 so far in LCK Summer. That means Ezreal first pick is heavily sticking out its head right now. What is SKT hedging for, though? Because they're basically saying we're going to get Ezreal or something else. It seems like Vladimir might have been the other side. We saw a really impressive performance at Rascal in game number 1 on a early pick Vladimir, so maybe the trade was going to be Vladimir versus Ezreal, but that means Lucian is left open. Where is the priority at for Ted?
There's a lot of stuff left available, as you were mentioning. I mean, even Galio has been first picked at times, but with Ezreal and Lucian available, I feel like you have to take one of them right now. It will be the Lucian, as does get banned very often on the red side, as it is a huge lane bully down there, but GenG going to respond with one of those picks I was mentioning. Immediately, the Galio comes out here for life. He's 1-0 on the pick, and also a Aatrox pretty early on.
That was actually really well done there, Brendan Valdez. Whether he did it on purpose or not, that was a Aatrox after all. And is it going to be a flex pick on the side of GenG? Is this going to be holding on to a CuVee favorite from the past, but also obviously more clearly threatening a jungle Aatrox, which is a very common blind pick jungler? That part we don't know the answer to. SKT, we're all going very standard. Lucian Braum bot lane, Lissandra mid lane is what's coming through on the side of GenG, on the side of SKT, but GenG definitely have a bit more options with the Aatrox flex.
They certainly do. One big pick that has been around for a while, pretty strong, has been that Top Kench. Has been banned a lot in first rounds and also picked alongside Ezreal and other kind of squishy AD carries, but it is ignored for this first time. Could be targeted, but with Galio and Braum picked already, perhaps not, as we do see the Yorick banned first.
I like the Yorick ban from GenG. They want to flex the Aatrox further, and they of course have the issue where Khan plays the champions that lane into Yorick well, better than most top players. Remember, he's a Fiora god, so you're really scared to go for a blind Yorick against Khan if you don't double ban against it. So why not ban the Yorick, hold on to the Aatrox for a potential top laner, and give yourself more options. Tom Kench actually made its way pretty far through this draft. Harder on Braum duty today, but we think we already had the support matchup. We don't know it, given that FLICKR did actually play mid Galio in his last series.
A lot of interesting with those two champions you mentioned. His Braum is 3-0. Is Tomkinch's most played, though, at 8 games of 5-3. But feeling better for Lucian Braum, which is obviously a very strong and impressive bot lane.
SKT, if they lock in Rek'Sai, have the God 1-2 item comp on the blue side, and Rek'Sai noticeably is not going to be banned. Clid's Lee Sin taken out. It will not be a jungle Aatrox. This confirms it will be top lane Aatrox, or I guess mid lane Aatrox. Remember, Roach is in the lineup, so they have 2 top laners who can both play Aatrox, that's for sure. We'll see what SKT make of all this. The Rek'Sai, I think, is a God pick here. I'd be surprised not to see it locked in. It's an old favorite of Clid's as well.
You take away the Lee Sin, and you also take away the Olaf and Aatrox as potential junglers. Rek'Sai just too strong on this patch, and will be picked up.
This is such a God mid-game draft. How do they round it out? Because they're going to have to take an ambiguous top lane pick, probably into Aatrox, but nothing shown from that. CuVee has played a game of top Olaf in solo queue. I guess we should mention that out loud. So we'll wait and see what that means. Is Fiora blind by the side of SKT? We mentioned he's a blind and a God Fiora. They're going to go for it. It's a pretty bold choice, but Khan locking it in.
Gotta love it. Just flexing a little bit. Hasn't lost on it just yet. But blind pick here can be quite interesting, as the camera is on CuVee right now. Seems to be that maybe they're thinking it will be, but no, it will be the Alistar that does come in. Obviously, very high tier support left available, but that does mean that Galio is not going into the support role.
And what does that mean for the Fiora? Very expected. It's against the Aatrox, which is an even more winning matchup now after the Aatrox nerfs. There was time when people loved to run the mid lane Fiora against the Galio, but seems like Roach is going for a more prototypical mid laner, but it's a nerfed mid laner, and it's also one that is seeming to kind of fit the bill we mentioned. Skill matchups against FLICKR is not a good idea for Roach. Role swapping pretty late into both the Spring Split and his career onto the mid lane. So just go the Galio. It may be forgiving, but it doesn't necessarily inspire confidence on GenG being 9.4 ready. This looks like a pretty 9.1 draft on the side of GenG.
Does feel that way. I mean, you can see they prioritize the Aatrox, and then they last pick support. They don't use their counter pick for the top or mid lanes. They just take Alistar last because they already had their top laner, essentially. So kind of interesting not using one of the powers of the red side in the draft, but we'll see if that comfort kind of moves them along here in this one.
SKT's draft so strong in the 4, and then Khan wants to go for his split pushing. Rek'Sai can gank the other lanes with reliable CC, or Tremor Senses make sure Fiora is always safe whenever she's overextended trying to push in a wave. So you have a lot of options here as Clid. I think Clid has carte blanche to hard carry this game in the early to mid game. On the side of GenG, I don't think they necessarily have Elo Heaven as the game goes on, but they've got reliable CC and an Olaf. And Olaf versus Rek'Sai can swing very hard one way or the other. So the jungle matchup might be the pivotal one between SK Telecom T1 and GenG.
Those are the key players we listed before. We'll see how it pans out here for game number 1. All the fans riled up and ready to go here for this matchup. Definitely a lot of fans of both of these teams. Obviously, SKT has been around for a long time, and GenG with some big names in their lineup. Still waiting for, we were talking about Kingzone and Deft just hardcore carrying multiple times. We were really touting Ruler as another one of those guys, but hasn't really had the solid teammates that Deft has had in some of his solo lanes so far. We haven't seen him be able to super hard carry so many times just yet.
Looking over the picks here, and you'll notice nothing in the loss column for these champions yet on the side of SKT. I want to draw your attention to the jungle of GenG. Peanut was supposed to come in as the solid carry alongside Ruler. We hypothesized Peanut with his smart path in the early game would open up potential carries for Ruler in the late game. Notice he has gone Conqueror Olaf. This is very surprising to me, but it is a rune choice opened up. Conqueror is a sometimes choice on a lot of champions on patch 9.4. This is with the hotfix, so it's not the full value Conqueror on release on patch 9.4, and it's in lieu of a Predator, so no Predator ganks coming, and no fun in the laning phase for Roach.
You see that FLICKR forgoes one of those minions and just says, by the way, welcome to the mid lane here, Roach. You're playing that that old guy Galio that's not really seen too much in the mid lane, but let me welcome you in my own special way.
It is a matchup that is usually non-interactive, but we got to see FLICKR versus Roach in solo queue on skill matchups, and predictably FLICKR was way ahead in those. So this might also be one of those matchups where Roach won't be at solo kill potential. That's too much to ask, but could be at lower health values than you might expect and be open to ganks. Rek'Sai can gank from very creative angles. Shaco-esque with her ability to tunnel over the wall and make creative gank paths work. So definitely could be action mid lane that we wouldn't normally tip, and there might just be a solo kill here as Peanut has been found in his red and should die.
He's so low, and he has the ward, but he hasn't used it, and, well, he's just going to take the red. Doesn't even go for the kill here just yet, but he's still on the prowl. As looks like Peanut will be able to get away after flashing, but he loses so much in his buff.
And he has to go for the most safe recall ever. This is actually really smart. If he goes the longest way possible, he's popping potions and judging whether he can go to his Krug camp. Clid will know only Krugs are up. He can see them moving as well, and he's not done with his invasion.
Another small thing about the Rek'Sai, it's being able to see what you can see over the wall, and once you already get that flash out of the Olaf, feel so ready, especially with the pressure and priority in the top lane, just to have Khan come down and say, yeah, you're not going to have your Krugs.
Almost every game where you come away feeling great about SKT this season has been this scenario. Clid with a very obvious skirmish advantage over the enemy jungler, and priority his lanes to back him up. There's been some amazing virtuoso-level performances from SKT when they've got early priority, and they've picked the god draft in this game, especially in the 4, outside of the Fiora, who actually even early in the trades against Aatrox after the nerfs, everyone else spikes super early. Rek'Sai is a god with just Warrior into Black Cleaver. She never gets stronger from that point. And in the late game, yes, things might start to fall away, but this is the sort of game, with that sort of a start, that the lead that SKT can generate could be game ending.
Speaking of which, and speaking of keeping tabs on your boy Peanut here, the Scryer's plant does see him, but he goes all the way around to the bottom side. Oh no, Teddy might just go down before he even gets there as he's alone. Mata will get away, but oh boy. Teddy has to flash too, but still goes down alone 1v2.
Even though we had the pullout, it feels like somehow we missed something, right? Yeah. SKT's duo lane just died 2v2. It was 2v1, of course, because Braum was roaming, but it was nothing to do with the jungler there. Didn't even spot him as the exact timing came of the ganking path. Disconnect between Teddy and Mata. Too easy for GenG. Here's the replay. Mata says, yep, I need to find out what's happening with the Olaf. He's spotted on a ward, still goes up, and Teddy just dies, so there's a huge disconnect here. This is honestly a pretty rubbish 2v2 play from the SKT duo.
Yeah, I mean, a very big mistake. Looked solo Q-esque as he dashes forward, doesn't respect Life's engage on the Alistar, doesn't have a support, as you mentioned, the communication wasn't there, so we'll just try to erase that from our memories because that's not what we're really used to seeing out of this bottom lane duo.
It was just so disconnected that we can't even choose someone to blame, right? You're just like, well, this was just a duo lane that was at odds there, and the comms were clearly not being respected on both sides. Again, not going to be a match-winning trade there, but Lucian has to amble back, doesn't have teleport, and it does relieve pressure from what is a winning lane matchup for SKT. It's Lucian Braum. We know how strong that can be in the 2v2. Anything to get rule the breathing room means he gets a back without a teleport on the first back. That means his second back will be much more potent and much earlier than you would think.
Yeah. Went back and got a tier and a pickaxe, too, so kind of interesting. Probably didn't have just enough for a Sheen, so he just got the extra damage, the 875 instead. Was probably pretty close. But just the extra gold from the first blood allows him to even have that item instead of just a mana crystal for the Sheen or anything like that.
Those items don't allow him to actually stop things like turret plates rolling, and that's one done and a second one on the way from SKT's duo bot side, and that's with no jungle backup, only a control ward put down, showing you how strong that lane is on paper. We see FLICKR push in extensively on Galio. Had a lot of power crypt from his Q over time, and Khan winning top. So there's 3 winning lanes for SKT. The gank bot lane doesn't change anything, or the 2v2 kill as we should talk it, so we will compliment Ruler and Life for finding a time there. Now they're looking for an invade. Will anything change around the playbook for SKT? Because they should still be feeling very proactive and very confident about the current game state.
Like the path that Clid takes here actually avoids any vision to hop on over. They're not even going to know he's here until they see him on the blue buff. As they will see him now, it will go the way of Clid. Nice double knockup, but no follow-up from the team as, okay, we're following it here as Galio comes in, but out goes Rek'Sai and in she goes again. FLICKR! And FLICKR's in position to do enough damage and follow-up. Roach should be going down, only Vada going to be the sacrifice here for the 2-for-1 for SKT.
And that was just GenG baiting themselves into a problem. Life got the kill earlier, but at level 5, Alistar engaging when SKT, like we mentioned, is so powerful just innately in the early game. Opens up multiple members on a silver platter, and how about an Infernal Drake unless Peanut can stop him?
We do have the ults coming through, but it's way too late as the smite is on point there from Clid. Just one nice play into another. As you mentioned, GenG trying to force that one, get punished hardcore.
And it's just one of those overforces where you got a good moment bot lane, you think, okay, let's double down, get them again, you know, a 1-2 punch. But unfortunately, the timing here is ill-advised. No ultimates on the members involved in this fight of GenG before FLICKR just takes it over. He's the one ahead of the play. The Galio ult is early, but it's not going to be enough with Life not having his own ult. But watch FLICKR, gets into the back line. The self-ult's the right choice here. He's able to get a lot of value in that fight. Chase down further kills as well.
That makes that happen. Maybe if Life is level 6, you know, he survives for long enough and maybe can create enough ruckus to make that kind of aggressive play make sense, but fortunately he was just level 5 and still is. So, does go awry as trying to stop the back, but Vada is a faithful support, does not allow that to happen.
Continue with the full court press strategy from SKT. They've been very good at playing this strategy so far. In the Kesper Cup and LCK Spring 2019, Fiora having a very happy time. Goes for the very standard Tiamat. Notice the choice here from CuVee, an interesting one. Executioner's calling Aatrox against Fiora is a surprising one, but I guess their hope is, if there is a 2v2, which feels inevitable, the healing field can't be enough to just super swing the early skirmishes the way of Fiora, so it might be a way to keep Fiora honest for longer, but we know there are just item break points that Aatrox can't match. So as the gold comes in, both of them have 6, 7, 8,000 gold. We know Fiora will be winning, but perhaps they're hoping that doesn't happen early, which is possible if the right game comes in.
Khan trying to be sneaky there. You saw him waiting in the brush, but CuVee actually just pings it out. And the second he does, it was kind of funny. Khan, ooh, nice play there. Predicts that knockup against the riposte stun onto CuVee. Khan, super clean so far on his Fiora mechanics as, well, he's Lissandra. He's not going to die.
Sad Olaf ganks when the taunt doesn't come through. They're looking for more onto the Rek'Sai.
Oh, okay. And this guy is in a bunch of trouble trying to get that World Ender out first, but it looks like they're going to go back, actually, on the dive. They don't want to take that super long time and then have Olaf come in and clean up, especially because Fiora and Rek'Sai, not the tankiest members.
Would have been one of those, what is our primary objective here? The turret play on Fiora is enough of a lead to mess around with the Aatrox ult, so they're happy to back away. Probably the right call, all things considered. Back away from there. Didn't join us for our first series. Haven't seen a lot of Rek'Sai. You know she can do this.
From miles downtown, in goes Clid. Does a lot of damage, especially with the red buff, but Peanut is able to get away. Has that Cinderhull completed already with some cloth armor, so he is actually relatively tanky.
The missing health ratio, not relevant there. Even at level 1, it's 20% missing health, but it was a full health nuke for gap close rather than just for the damage, so not going to be able to show off quite how broken that 5.2 AD ratio we were discussing in series number 1 is there onto the Aatrox. Instantly stacked up Conqueror. You heard that Conqueror sound as things went on, and of course the Black Cleaver. We stacked just as quickly. That means that Lucian's going to be doing a hell of a lot of damage, hitting the same target as Rek'Sai in the mid game. Speaking of Rek'Sai, backs away, takes down the Rift Herald, and will even pick it up. Not everyone has been able to do that this season.
Yeah. It's funny you have to even say that, but We have had that happen a couple of times as SKT, you'll remember their first for Rift Heralds. I think it was 17 out of 25 games, something like that. Now they're 18 for 26. And so will remain at that first place spot for Shelly's taken on the map.
Now, first item completions are in, and that's only an SKT story, if you really want to be honest about it. Ravenous Hydra to be able to fight in the minion wave and even through something like the Executioner's Calling, out heal in most realistic scenarios. The Luden's Echo there, rushed by FLICKR, so no Proto Belt. The mana nerfs coming in from our man Jat have clearly affected things, as we always see a Lost Chapter built into these Lissandra builds these days, and already completion onto the Blade of the Ruined King. So these are the one-item power spikes where SKT begin to really jam their foot on the accelerator, and it's only around 3-4 items that GenG, I think, can start to match them. So I feel like a lot of the map trades are at the whim of when SKT want them, and only them being too nice could really stop the GenG from falling into a pretty big hole over the next 10 minutes.
I mean, you can already tell that even before the spike comes in, they are able to get a bunch of objectives already in gold on the map, right? So many plates have gone down in top, mid, and bot. They get the Infernal plus the Rift Herald. It's just all SKT so far here in the early game, and now they've gotten to their spike, so they should be really rolling with any punch that's given to them.
5 plates, so 800 of the gold lead is purely plates. Wrong side of SKT. Here's the engage, though.
Wow, big knock up there on a 2, and we do have Peanut, but you can see just how passive they're being. Even 3v2, seems like they don't have full information, not willing to go in on that fight.
The buddy system enacted this time by SKT, and you see how strong Braum is at repelling all-ins. He still has his summoners up. I don't even know if they got through the Guardian, but that was the biggest thing they could break through. Khan continues to make CuVee's life hell, and here's that Rift Herald summon in the mid lane. How about solo gold on the best of all time?
Yeah, look at the timing too, 13:47. That's 13 seconds before the plates do go down. That's 320 extra gold that goes the way, plus another plate due to the tankiness of the Rift Herald. Just so much extra given over based on the timing. Great macro so far here in this game.
Really feels like SKT are playing patch 9.4 and also the 2019 patch. GenG, they're at their whim.
Well, Life is caught out there. No real escape for him. Not much to yell about as he gets caught out without an ultimate. Had to use it in the bottom side. They knew they had him, and Life knew it too. Didn't even flash.
And it just feels like GenG are at their whim. This outdated draft that would have looked out pretty much, you know, prototypical on 9.1. At 9.4, it doesn't feel like the way forward. They have solo lane disadvantages. They're going to try and teleport and try a team fight.
They do not have the Alistar, but they're really trying to make this work as, okay, the Rek'Sai comes in and steals it and flashes the wall. Clid putting on the blaze here. Looked like a gymnast just flying through the play.
Meanwhile, at Fiora, they couldn't even get a response teleport out of Khan. So even in teleport usage, they come out ahead. Clid's Rek'Sai seems like it's coming together a lot cleaner than we saw in our first series. And this pretty bloodless gold lead. Remember, only a single kill to the advantage of SKT, yet everything else is sliding exactly into their wheelhouse as this team comp is hitting its stride.
Yeah, not much of a fight put up here so far from GenG. I mean, they try a couple of times, but it's not exactly the best time to go for it. And SKT able to make the most of the plays. They get 2 Drakes, and the third one, much to the chagrin, GenG is going to be a second Infernal, so should go the way of SKT. We'll see if GenG can pull a bit of a magic trick out of their pocket.
Just feels like SKT have read their opposition very well. They're drafting a comp that, like we say, suits the patch, and I just don't know what the best case scenario of the GenG draft is. You look at it and you say, you're going to find it hard to skirmish. The lanes aren't great either. And if you don't fight early, SKT have shown again and again with this lineup, they will make you pay. Here is the steal. It actually was at 49 health before it was claimed. A drive-by by Clid.
Yeah, he was so far away when he ulted too. He was not even close to the pit. Just flies over like a pole vaulter and then flashes away.
Against a team that can't play the early to mid game, you could kind of understand GenG's draft, but even then, you get outscaled by the Fiora split push. with the nameplates on, with it being SKT, I just think they had such a narrow win condition this game, and it required mistakes from the enemy. And here's the conga line. They want more kills.
Yeah, who's flanking who here? Is Peanut thinking
Whoa.
about a play? And okay. All right, observers, really trying to impress us now, getting that big-time angle. And keeping it even tilted a little bit, trying to get Galio in the top side.
The tilted part is CuVee, because TP down, and Fiora got to stay in lane. Now she's got a 40 CS lead, a red buff. That was probably the enemy red buff. And CuVee can't match Fiora at all. So they're in a damned if you, damned if you don't situation, GenG. What are they going to do here? They're trying something.
Okay, Vada goes in and dies.
I guess
That's all I got. Nothing else happened. I mean, that's really it. As they were looking for the dive, but something in that bottom lane today is just not, they're not working on all cylinders sometimes.
Does feel that there's a bit of lag in the comms, at least, between those two, as Mata walked off and promptly was dispatched. There was no objective for SKT to really get around that area. They were already slowly going to pick up the turret with their TP advantage. They're going to steal away a blue buff. I don't know exactly what I would say is GenG's at this point. They are losing control of their Raptors and blue buff and other objectives so early, pre-20 minutes, that I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, the next job here for SKT is to just chop down all the outer turrets so far, top and mid. Already down, and all Clid has to do is show his base, the base of Rek'Sai, and they're like, okay, well, we can't stand here, we have to just give that one away.
Rek'Sai Tremor Sense, even without being involved, is such a win more button for people who are ahead. They already had winning lanes here, as we outlined, and then Rek'Sai, who invaded Olaf and made Olaf trivial early, just stands around and can shadow. That's why moves like this are unnecessary. In other game states, he tried to posture and try to scare the enemy, but they saw all three members of Mata go into melee range. I guess he was greeting for a proc of the Demolish. Wasn't really necessary in that scenario, but literally all Clid has to do is walk up to a lane that's overextended and chill out with the Tremor Sense, and either they're going to kill someone in transition or his laner's going to get away scot-free. So it is so easy for SKT to continue to open their lead. And how about when an Infernal Drake, the second of the game, falls into your lap in a game state like this?
This is a big one for sure, and you can see that GenG don't want to give it up for free. And FLICKR will notice that. He sees all four members coming in, knows Galio's in mid and can join any time, and says, okay, boys, our enemy's going to fight for this one.
There's one thing to note. Khan has no mana in the side lanes. He doesn't want to make a TP play, even though he has a TP advantage. So 5v4, things get a little bit harder to calculate.
They're gonna face check a little bit here.
Watch SKT, they're gonna kite back but posture. They don't want to give away a Drake start, but they need to allow Khan to finally refill his mana, and now they can start to move up.
Goes back, Clid. Gonna tip away at the wards, as you were mentioning. Try to deny as much vision as possible. Scout what he can see with the Tremor Sense, as you mentioned before.
And you have a pretty good defensive line with these two control wards around the entrance to their, I guess, mid lane turret and blue buff is what you would describe.
Yeah.
That particular brush means that SKT is showing respect. They're falling back to a lot of their fundamentals and pushing lanes. I see you pointing at Fiora items. Those are big.
He got it with 0 gold, so he got it right at the timing. And speaking of timing, there's an Infernal Drake on the map right now, and you have Ravenous Hydra Trinity Force Fiora.
She might even be teamfight ready. She didn't even need to be teamfight ready. Speaking of teamfight,
are we going to have one? Okay, big knockup here from Life. Will only get Mata from the follow-up of the Galio. As FLICKR looking for one, but they're going to go to the right side. Nice flashes away here from GenG, but Life a little bit too weak, as he does have his ultimate run out. Trying to cover the wall, or just faking it here is FLICKR. Just trying to push them away. GenG still don't want to give this one away, as now they're going to try to pile on to CuVee before he can world end, and down he will go as Roach all alone, desperately trying to get it, but the smite comes in, and he won't be able to do anything. 3 more kills, and the Infernal go to SKT.
Sometimes in League of Legends, you have to fake it till you make it. Fiora is the prototype of these sort of champion, needs 2 items to be relevant most of the time. This is not one of those games. They are the real ones on the side of SKT. They're already so far ahead They approach that fight in far from optimal fashion. Fiora's kind of chilling with Galio as he ults away, enters the fight late, and yet it all comes together because GenG are super early, toothless in this game, and SKT can bide their time, wait out the ults, and when they re-engage, Life with his ultimate dies in the blink of an eye.
Runs out there at the end,
that's
you know?
a good point. And then he just dies instantly. That's just all about Lucian with press the attack and also Rek'Sai. Setting things up, turn onto the Infernal, everything falls into place, and the re-engage from FLICKR perfectly timed.
Second CuVee steps over his boundaries just a tiny little bit. Immediately he gets denied there, and FLICKR with a stopwatch at this point says, nuh-uh, you can't do anything here, Roach. Even though you are mid lane Galio, you have a bit of damage, you're still not going to kill me. So they get 3 in the Infernal.
Hold off that again.
Oh, okay.
Teammates.
Used his flash too, as I'm looking at it, maybe Khan was the one who flashed for that one.
He did. It was teammates killing each other. Fiora killed Peanut, old duo from last year. We'll get a replay of that one, I'm sure, but hardly the biggest thing to happen in this game. SKT continue to push forward. Khan is just ungodly strong. 2-level lead, if you don't mind.
World Ender just riposts under turret. There's really no damage that CuVee can do at this point. He's so far behind. Executioner's calling, looking laughable at this point. But
just won't do anything. And
yeah, it's just too far behind overall.
I think a lot of people will take aim at Olaf, a champion who's not even picked up a single win over in the LCS. Potential collapse here from SKT. Do note that you'll probably see a lot of Rek'Sai versus Olaf, and just these champions a lot on 9.4 around LCS and LEC. These two junglers are the worst from behind of the current pick. Elise is up there as well, but both these champions in wins with tempo advantages, Olaf and Rek'Sai, are huge win more buttons. But from behind, their ability to salvage a game like a Sejuani or a Zac is almost zero. So definitely Olaf here is looking like a laughable champion, can't do anything, building a slow black cleaver to I don't know exactly what. We'll dive very, very fast. Meanwhile, Clid is looking like everywhere he touched, it has the Midas touch. It helps that he had 3 winning lanes from the start.
We'll take a look at how this happens. Maybe he saw him going to the brush over the ward, but scouts him out. He tries to back again, and then Khan's like, no,
he was on a recall.
Yeah, again. Flash, see you later.
He flashed over the base wall, the one close to the base wall. That lets you know that this game isn't competitive. No one fat flashes over that wall unless you already won the game.
Yeah. He's probably like, yeah, come at me, bro. I can kill all of you if you want. In fact, that's definitely what he was saying, as Khan's been looking super clean on this Fiora. Blind pick or counter pick, doesn't seem to matter. I do have to say, though, that Aatrox's second pick by GenG really doing nothing so far in this game.
You also have to say, blind picking Fiora against some top laners in the LCK, very bold. Against CuVee, who's only won on Urgot and Kennen, that's bold. This is definitely a player who you don't feel like can attack you in the one, but it's not Noguri, right? So you're feeling pretty confident that you're going to get away with it. He got away with it and then some. CuVee, he has ult at least. You'll be able to pop it in a stun to shut him down, but he is basically will probably be replaced by a couple of caster minions in pretty similar fashion.
Clid in a little bit of trouble here, but SKT still too far ahead. They don't have enough damage there with Olaf, Roach on the Galio, and Two-Shot Barrage also not going to kill him.
About 150 damage short. You need quite a lot of AP to be able to catch up there, so don't know if the item disadvantage is going to matter. FLICKR takes down another turret. This one is so over, Valdez. The SKT fans, you can cash this one. These checks are ready to go. You know when they pay out on bets early? That's what it feels like we're watching here. There is always a chance. SKT have actually, against Damwon a couple of times, made some pretty big throws, but this one feels so hard to pull off for GenG. As the disconnects among SKT's duo bot is the only thing that's gone wrong for them in game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned in the pick ban, SKT, they draft a fantastic 9.4 comp.
Yeah.
GenG, they draft a great 9.1, 9.2 comp. I think that makes all the difference. I mean, when's the last time we saw Galio in the mid lane? Like, you know, high-tier pick, sure, for support now.
Well, we saw it from FLICKR in SKT's win, so it has been played once recently, but it was very situational. Yes. The picks around it, the chess pieces around it facilitated more than we see here. Here it does feel outdated. I agree with you, Valdez. It really feels like SKT were gift wrapped a comp that is so strong on 9.4. I'm happy to see them play in the patch because as a organization, they have been behind the curve in the past when it comes to patch changes.
Bloodthirster just casually picked up by Fiora here. Khan having a day out.
Name 3 players that can kill Khan. 3v1.
You mean all together?
You can choose 3 champions on the side of GenG. Don't get to choose any SKT champions. That's cheating.
I think it'd probably have to be Galio, Ezreal, and Aatrox.
Do you think it would work? With double lifesteal?
You'd need enough follow-up CC after the initial engage to actually make that happen, as Light looking to go down here, does have his flash available, but here comes Khan over the wall. See, okay, nice knockup, actually stays alive for quite a while. Khan also taking a bunch of damage here. Does have pretty ridiculous lifesteal and is immediately at full health.
They had to waste his time for a while, but actually that was amazing how fast his health came back.
Oh yeah.
Absurd, he has so much lifesteal from the build. It's very forgiving for SKT. Their mid-game comp is so far ahead. They have 4 Drakes, including double Inferno at their strongest part. Fiora's in the bot lane, and here we go.
A little, face check added to the pile as you kind of have to do something. Clid getting pretty low, but is going to be able to escape on the backside. Can he be sniped? Oh! In transition! Catches him as Ruler is dying to win a game. But, it's kind of hard as the flash comes forward. Teddy is going to snipe away that Olaf on the backside, and nobody really wants to get close to the Fiora. You mentioned 3 champions. These weren't the 3 I mentioned.
Definitely a fortunate snipe that time was Olaf. That time, Bad used the burrow. We're seeing a re-engage attempt with Galio ult, but all looks a bit sad.
It's all a
here's Khan.
It's all a ruse as Khan coming in behind, just 3 swipes him, has the healing too.
3v1 in a turret, so far 1 person's dead.
Well, that's a lot of CC. Is it going to be enough though? Finally it is, as 1,000 gold will go the way of Aatrox. Not going to matter though, as well, SKT do enough damage and they're pushing for the win.
The answer was Alistair, Ezreal, Aatrox in a turret. That was this magic number to take down Fiora. SKT looking for those demolish procs and looking for the game 1 victory.
Looks like they should do it. It's only Olaf. They're even stopping to get an extra kill as Peanut, why not flash a little bit away as well. And they will be able to take this Nexus in the first win here over GenG in just under 30 minutes.
Can't draft Olaf in 3 losing lanes and get away with it against a good team, and SKT is a very strong team on their day. They take the invitation, say thank you very much, and no surprise, 30-odd minutes later they walk away with the victory. A straightforward one for SKT.
Zipping out of there too, not wasting any time. Not sure what there is to talk about that one. I mean, the draft was pretty pristine. The game definitely going according to plan.
But how does your GenG draft end up like that at the end? That's the part that I have an issue with, is it just had so little going for it. Is that it feels like it's that really depressing combination of these are what these players can play, these are what they're confident on based on scrims and stage, this is our role-swapped mid laner, like there's too many things coming together for that to be a viable draft on the side of GenG. It's really disappointing for me because it was exactly like we thought it would go. It wasn't any different. It was very one-sided, but the draft was one-sided, and then the play was one-sided, and then they lost. That's not a cool story.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just a boring story.
Yeah. It wasn't the most competitive game, obviously. I mean, we saw a lot of cool numbers, damage for sure. But you're talking about the draft. Aatrox coming in second. They definitely did a number to them. As we're taking another look at the replay. Gage comes in, misses Teddy on the knockup. Only getting the follow-up there from Roach. And then Khan, he's the big bad wolf in this one. Just crazy damage on the backside.
And the veterans of SKT, they're probably feeling pretty bad about themselves going to the back and saying, oh, we made a lot of mistakes around the 2v2 lane. They should be focused on fixing their mistakes, even though they were the only team that was going to win this game, because their mistakes were the ones that keep them away from greatness, whereas the GenG mistakes were so large that they kind of have to just throw out game number 1 and just try something new in game number 2.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. We'll have to wait and see what happens on red side for SKT. I'm sure they're going to draft a little bit better than GenG did that time around. Turns out that Lucian gets the most damage in the game, even after dying early on. Gave up the first blood. Didn't end up mattering, as only 5 kills go the way of GenG.
Yeah, otherwise a perfect game outside of those 5 kills. And that was just a bit of fast and loose play by Teddy Mata and a couple of other people as the game went on. The gold graph was very, very one-sided, and have to hope this is a mulligan. Let's give him a do-over, see if GenG can turn it around in game number 2, because, like you say, it just felt like it was written in pen and ink very early in this game, and then we didn't need to cross anything out.
If you were voting on GenG for that one, I'm sure you were already head in hands after the draft, and then after 15 minutes in.
Yeah.
I mean, they were getting ahead before their first item, a spike, and an Infernal.
Yep.
And then, they had that winning lane of Fiora over
At some
Aatrox.
point,
It's even better on 9.4.
At some
it's
point,
like,
you're just being cruel, Valdez. You got to stop saying the ands. You got to go back to original grammar, and we got to be nice casters here and say yes. It was a little bit off.
They gave it their best effort.
Did they?
I mean, not in the draft. But, at least they'll have that do-over you were talking about. Go into the back and
throw it out.
Say, like, hey, that draft kind of sucked, guys. Let's do better next time.
I wonder what you changed. Does the roster change? Because remember, Fly is ostensibly in the back.
Could definitely happen, Papa. Definitely do not leave that out of your minds, guys, as it looks like we're going to be hopping to a commercial break. Game number 2 of GenG versus SKT is going to be coming at you right away. In just a few moments here, we'll have to wait and see if GenG can come back and tie the series up, or if SKT, the favorites in this series, are going to pick up that 2-0. We'll see you guys in a bit.